agreements and well, you know what? I have coverage.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Cam, and welcome back to the Phillips Project, where myself and Jake Collins from 3D Movie Cinema are reviewing every Todd Phillips directed film in honor of Joker Folie à Deux coming to theaters next week. We've covered everything up to the first Hangover. Stephanie from I Bought the Popcorn, or I'll Buy the
I'll buy
Popcorn.
the popcorn.
Thank you. Joined us for that review, and it was a lot of fun. Link in the eye in the right-hand corner. Go check it out. But for right now, we got to get into, well, we've got a couple Hangover movies left, War Dogs and Joker, the first one left, but now we got to cover the last, we got to cover this. We got to cover due dates. This was released in 2011. It starred Robert Downey Jr. and Zach Galifianakis. And to best describe this movie is a raunchier, less funny version of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Honestly, it's surprising that the John Hughes estate did not file suit over this because it's kind of criminal how similar they are, but I digress. It does tell the story of a man played by Downey Jr. who is trying to get from Atlanta to Los Angeles to see the birth of his first child. However, through a series of air quotes wacky events, he ends up with switching bags with a wannabe actor played by Zach Galifianakis, who and they both end up on a no-fly list, and so they have to make the long trek by car to LA, and air quotes hijinks ensue. So this is not necessarily awful. I've seen worse, but man, this was easily the most annoying of Phillips's movies to get through, Jacob.
I like this movie. I actually own this movie, and I just remember watching it. I will say though, you did break a fourth wall for me because I was like, because you were like Robert Downey Jr. in this movie is the biggest dick on the planet because it's like every person he interacts with, he's just always an asshole to this person. It's like, why are you being an asshole? It's like literally, I understand you were like, I understand he's being an asshole to Zach Galifianakis because he's annoying, but like, why is he being an asshole to the like the best Western guy or the Western Union guy? Why is he an asshole to like it's like everybody he in there actually is like fuck you, like it's like which he's trying to get home to his wife. His wife's she's pregnant and she could have the baby in there, and then this is kind of an inconvenience for him. Okay, and so I understand. I understand. I mean, like if your wife was pregnant, if you had a wife and she was pregnant, I understand you would be, and then you like on a no fly list and you have to travel with someone who's so annoying. I get that, and I will say though I remember watching this movie when I was like this because I loved Hangover 1. Okay. So this is 2010. Okay. Or 2000. Was it 2010 or 11? I think it was 2010 this movie came out because Hangover was 2011. So I think this was
No,
like
no, no.
January-ish.
Hangover was '09.
Yeah. Hangover was 2000. I'm saying Hangover 2 was 2011.
Okay,
And
you're right. You're right. You're right.
and I think this is like January. It came out on DVD January. I got it from Best Buy. And I remember I got two magazines, like one Green Lantern magazine and Entertainment Weekly, and Henry Cavill was just announced as Superman. So he was on the cover of Entertainment Weekly. Saying, I'm the new Superman, heaven. And then of course, and then Ryan Reynolds on the cover of what's it called? Wizard magazine. The last issue of Wizard magazine of him is Green Lantern. And like, him on which ironically, today we watched this and they announced Kyle Chandler as Hal Jordan, ironically. And so yeah, I remember watching this and I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was really funny. Yes, I will say you are right. There are like the movie is mean spirited. It is a meaner version because there is a lot of shit that happens in this movie that you're just like every time he's about to let Zach Galifianakis go, he's still it's almost like you're telling him it's your own fault that this stuff's happening to you because he literally could have just said we part ways here and then none of the other shit that happens would happen to him. Like literally, they get into a car accident. They literally go into the Mexican border. They also literally get assaulted by a guy in a wheelchair. And this is all and Robert, and then he gets shot. All these are all Zach Robert Downey Jr.'s fault because you kept staying with this man. This man is crazy, and it's kind of like, yeah, there's a lot of shit that happens. What do you think? What would you think? I want to hear your thoughts on this movie because I know.
So I've had some time to think it over. We were talking back and forth in DMs. Initially, I was like, "Yeah, this is not good. I don't like this." But I think it's okay. Like there are parts of it that I definitely do not like. However, there are like little glimmers of like I actually like what they tried to do there. So I think I admire the effort more than the execution. That's a weird way of putting it, but that's my story and I'm sticking to it. Just to show that I'm not trying to come across as a dick or anything like that. There are a couple parts in the movie that I do like, and I'll talk about those just for the sake of I'm trying to be fair here. One of the parts that I liked was in the bathroom after the fight with the guy in the wheelchair, played by
Yeah.
Danny McBride. Uh, like Downey Jr.'s character is like, yeah, you're not going to be an actor. I don't believe you. And he pitches Galifianakis' character scenarios for him to play out. And then the one where it's like it's Super Bowl Sunday, he's got to rally the team, and his wife is leaving him. And when Galifianakis' character starts crying, I'm not gonna lie, I'm like, dang it, they're trying to make me like this guy, and it's almost working. So there's these moments throughout the movie like that. And it legitimately made me laugh when Jamie Foxx and him are in the truck and Galifianakis is in the back and they run over those two drainage ditches and they go flying. That part made me laugh quite a bit. But the crux of this movie is you're stuck with these two very unlikable people for a couple of different reasons. Robert Downey Jr.'s character is unlikable because he's kind of smug, he looks down on people, and they try and tie it back to his father left him, so he's got trauma. I understand, but man, it is really hard to like him. And there are certain points where you're just like, okay, you're just being an a-hole for no particular reason. And then you got Galifianakis' character, who is dumb to the point of just being embarrassing. Like some of the stops they take on this road trip are just insane. You could have cut out the entire Juliette Lewis weed purchase, like out of the movie, and it would have made no difference. And it doesn't really help things that Downey Jr.'s character punches a kid in the stomach, like an 8-year-old boy in the stomach. And I'm just sitting there like, this is funny. Why?
Quit it. I'm not kidding.
How hilarious. How highly, highly humorous.
This is the part of movie comedies that I don't like. It's that chop them in the throat and see what happens style of comedy. There's no rhyme or reason. It's just let's get a reaction. Like no substance. It just is there to be like, ha, it's funny. But no, it's really not.
There is actually a deleted scene that Todd Phillips cut out at the end where Peter was actually supposed to reunite with his father after the birth of his baby, and Alan Arkin was going to be his father.
I mean,
But they cut it out because
Alan Arkin would have crushed it.
I mean, like, because they said they cut it out because they felt like they just felt like they threw another curveball at you, and Todd Phillips said it would just wouldn't have fit because this is the ending of the movie, and it would have kind of detracted the movie. I will say, I do think the scene that had me like, what the fuck, is the masturbation scene where we both talked about saying he's jerking off in the car, and then all of a sudden Robert Jr.'s like, what? Why? And I'm like, that would not be neither one of our reactions. We'd be like, what the fuck?
I would have launched myself out of the car or I would have shoved him out of the car. Either way, I would not be sat there in this scenario.
The dog.
Yeah,
The fucking dog. That was the last straw for Robert Jr. was when the dog started doing it. And I'm like, what the fuck? Why? I was like, why do we need to see a masturbating dog in this movie? Like, why? Like, I understand that's supposed to be a shock moment, but like, I mean, it's not as bad as what we saw in Freddy Got Fingered, but I'm just saying, like, it just feels like that's more disgusting than it is funny. I mean,
no, it just
also,
like I said, it's that chop a bit of the throat and see what happens style of humor. Like it's Jackass without the reaction. It's just what are we even doing here?
also there is a moment like that in Hangover 2.
Of course there is.
Like to where you're just like, oh my god. But I mean, that also like I'm like I will say I did laugh when I saw it as a kid. I thought that was funny because the thing is, though, you're like, this is just dumb. Like it's just not even funny. It's like it's just I don't care. one, your reaction should be much stronger that there is another man sitting next to you jerking off when you're trying to sleep. That right there should be like the biggest red flag. Instead, that's like, okay, he's like, just go back to sleep. I'm gonna go back to sleep. You just hurry up and finish. And I'm like, what? In what reality would that be okay? And instead, then he sees the dog do it. That's when that was the last straw. I'm like, although I did laugh, I said, "Your fucking dog is doing." And he's like, "Sonny, no, Sonny." That made me laugh at the dog.
He gives
Sonny,
the
no.
he has a tone, and that's in that moment where it's like, this has happened before. Like, depressingly, this has happened before.
Like, that's like the dog. Which I'm like, the sad thing is, an animal handler had to teach his dog to do that for a freaking movie, and I feel really bad for the animal handler.
I hope that handler was compensated well. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Also, I do like the fact that there was okay. There are some funny moments, like for instance, the drink the ashes. I thought that was funny.
It was a little bit Big Lebowski derivative-esque, but you know what? Like that's fine. I'll allow that.
I mean, like Jamie Foxx is like they're like, which I'm thinking I've never drank someone's ashes from a coffee, but like, wouldn't it be a different color than black? Wouldn't it be like white, or wouldn't it be like more like look more like gray water? Like I'm sure it wouldn't look black. Also, wouldn't there be bone pieces? Wouldn't it be drinking like what is this stuff? And like I
I
mean, it's
I love
ashes.
I love how his main concern is what color the coffee would be rather than I'm drinking a dead guy. But speaking of Jamie Foxx in this movie, why is he here? Because his entire subplot like contributes nothing to the story. Like they try to plant the seed of maybe he cheated on Robert Downey Jr.'s character with his wife, and that may not be. And there's this awkward moment where Galifianakis is like, I thought of three things. Like maybe you might have a zebra child, and I'm just like, what are we even doing here? And it goes nowhere. That's the problem. It's like it's a joke that just starts and then never ends. So it turns out like Rosie was Robert Downey Jr.'s and her child the whole time. So like why was Jamie Foxx even here?
I think what he was there for is because they wanted a celebrity cameo and they got one.
So then just
He doesn't
do
even
a
show up at the
cameo.
end.
Don't make him an actual character with an attempt at a storyline.
Why? Also, he literally is only in the movie for like 15 minutes. He doesn't even show up at the end. He says, "I'll be there whenever your wife has the bear," and like he's not there. I'm like, "Where's Jamie Foxx at?" You know, I'm like, he's only in the movie for like 15 minutes. You
And
know, and I'm just like, it's crazy.
and he's like Davy Boy Smith when he pulls a prank on Owen Hart. He's not even there. But
Yeah, he's like literally like, would it make sense like if he called him after the airport? Like, like try to recuperate more story instead of just like his entire arc is when he picks him up to when he drops him off. That's his entire arc.
and then they take
That's
his
the
Range Rover, which they end up losing at the Mexico border, which that was just a dumb moment too, when Galifianakis' character is like, I thought it said Texaco. I'm like, you can very clearly see that's an M. I don't care how stoned you are. You can still
Mexico.
you could still spell. You idiot.
Also, why would you let him drive after he drove you off a fucking bridge?
Yeah, Robert Downey Jr.'s character in this movie is way too trusting of this man. How many like Galifianakis' character has an infinite second chance glitch that you don't see until about 30 minutes into the movie, and then you realize just he has more he has more second chances than like Alberto Del Rio or something like just what are we even doing here?
You should have left him at the hospital after he drove you off a bridge. First off, no, you should have literally. At first, I actually felt bad the first time. I wouldn't have done the first time, but after he drove me off a bridge, I think then I would have absolutely have said, "Yeah, we're done here. We're done here." I would have not literally. I would not have got. He would not have gotten a second chance of like that Mexican border stuff and like literally getting shot would not have happened to me because that literally would have been like that's where we draw our lines.
I did think it
That's
was a bit too extreme when he spat on the dog, though, because like I'm not really a dog person, but I wouldn't want someone doing that. So like when that
yeah.
happened, I'm like, okay, that
I,
too far right.
no, what made me upset was whenever like they did the thing and the dog was in the back with him. I'm like, oh come on, like the dog, like. But I understand probably that's probably a dummy and a stunt man, but like a dummy dog and a stunt man. But still, like, the idea of the illusion, it's a real dog, Which I'm like, yeah, when I saw the car flip the way it did, I'm like, there's no way that dog will be alive.
I'm like, I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, Todd Phillips does The Hangover, which is an unqualified success, and then the next thing he does is this. Like, I would much rather watch School for Scoundrels 100 times over this again.
I mean, there are some things I do like about it. I like the Chili's moment. Me and you were laughing because we love Chili's. We're like, we love Chili's.
We do quite love Chili's quite a bit, and when Danny McBride is like closing time, and it's like he's going to Chili's with his boys, I'm like, okay, I can kind of sympathize with you because Chili's is really really good, especially
But I
the
mean, like
Chili's sauce.
seriously, he could have been if Robert Downey Jr. is at fault because if he would have been not being an asshole to him, he probably could have helped you out. Like, look, man, if I would have said, look, I'm sorry, like, could we like please like just this is literally he says his name's Ethan. Can we please work something out, please, man? I mean, obviously, you want to get out of here quick. Like, I think Bradley Cooper's character in The Hangover could have easily have gotten them like the money and everything else would be fine. But like this, Robert A. Jr. seems like he's an asshole to everybody. So he's just like, listen, why don't you do your fucking job, man? Like, I'm like, being an asshole's not going to help anything. All he's just doing is he's just literally not going to help you at all. Like, And then on top of that, Zach Galifianakis tries it, and I'm like, he just makes it worse. I mean, it's like literally neither one of them is like the worst. It's like the worst duo because neither one of them are going to accomplish anything. But you have one that's going to be an asshole to you. It's like SpongeBob and Squidward would be the best way to describe this movie. It's like a raunchier SpongeBob and Squidward. Robert Downey Jr. Squidward, and then Zach Galifianakis is SpongeBob or Patrick.
No, Patrick, mayonnaise is not an instrument. But I'd much rather watch that duo over this duo any day of the week.
I mean, I will say there are some things I do like about this movie. I do like whenever they drove off the practical, the car stunts. I thought that was really great. And I like the music
Yeah,
choices.
that was
And
good.
I literally I like that, whenever he says you're ready to apologize, he goes, what? Fuck you. Like, or which honestly there are, and I do like at the end how they run into it, there's a black baby and they're like, Daryl. And he's like, I knew it. And then he's like, it's just Keegan Michael. Whoa, 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 whoa. He says this. And he's like, oh. So, like, I thought that was pretty great. And I like the 2.5 Men fake episode at the end. That was a great, because I love 2.5 Men. And so that was an awesome that, they had brought Charlie Sheen. And apparently on the Blu-ray, there is a whole episode that, not like a whole, but it's like a whole 15-minute mini episode of 2.5 Men that was shot for this movie.
My whole thinking with that was like, how well did this age? Because wasn't this the time where Charlie Sheen
This
was
was a
like,
year before.
oh, it was a year before. Okay, so 2.5 Men was still
The
still
number one show.
doing pretty solid, but then it just like all died a death the next year.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, like it's like, oh, Charlie Sheen's in this, cool. And like John Cryer, and then also apparently that was cut, but they said that because they said it took away like it was way too much longer. But it's actually 15 minutes they shot, and you actually see they interact with the little boy Jake and everything. But he was cut out of the movie because they said but they said, well, I thought it was cool that Charlie Sheen. I heard from people that Charlie Sheen has a cameo in this movie, but I didn't know to what extent. And then it turns out because he's a big fan of 2.5 Men, because that was a very popular show at the time, and Warner Brothers owns 2.5 Men.
Hmm.
And so we did not know that until after we found all the firing of Charlie Sheen. We were like, oh, Warner Brothers fired him. And I'm like, which I imagine this would not have, they would probably would not have aired this. This would have probably been cut out of the movie. If the firing of Charlie Sheen, I'm sure this would have been cut out of the movie. But I'm glad it didn't, because this came out before the Charlie Sheen stuff went down. But I really enjoyed the idea that like, oh, he gets to be on 2.5 Men, because it feels like the arc is, I mean, every Todd Phillips movie has an arc. The arc is this dude literally is just such a closed-minded individual that thinks he's better than everybody else, and he's basically an asshole. And then at the end, he becomes more open to like things because he's such a control freak, and then it kind of loosens up at the end, and he basically like he literally like at the end how he's just hugging and kissing Zach Galifianakis, going, yeah, he said you freed me from the Mexican prison, and I'm thinking he caused that though. He literally caused that.
Yeah,
He caused that.
yeah,
Who not think this?
he is the author of all of your pain in this moment. But I
He
think
even shoots you and steals your wallet. He steals your wallet. Like literally, he's been spending all your money. He took your money and spent weed with it.
I'm going to close things out here and say that on my scale, I don't want to give this a horrid grade because there are some moments in here that did make me laugh, and there are moments where I'm like, okay, we're clearly trying here. I've seen worse, so I'm just going to, and it's not entirely forgettable either because how can you forget about a dog doing that? So I'm just going to say this movie is unrated on my scale. It's too weird to live, too rare to die. But
Best
one
way to
thing is
describe this movie is you survived it.
exactly. And one thing for certain is that this is probably the weakest of the movies we've covered in Phillips's
Even
filmography.
Starsky and Hutch.
What?
Even Starsky and Hutch.
Uh, that's a tie for last with that one.
I would say this is better than Starsky and Hutch.
You know what? I agree. Starsky and Hutch is the worst. This is like just above that barely. But I pass it off to all of you. What did you all think? Think of due date. Let us know in the comments. Love to read what you have to say. And we're gonna be speed running a couple of these reviews because Joker Folia Do is just around the corner, so you're gonna be getting another one of these fairly soon. We're gonna be talking about The Hangover Part 2. This is one I've never seen, but I am reliably
I've seen
informed
it.
by a lot of
Highest
people.
grossing movie of 2011. Well, yeah, I think that was the highest grossing. I'm pretty sure it was the highest grossing movie of 2011.
But a lot of people have told me that this one is not great, so I'm not looking forward to it. But it's going to be dropping
It's
very
all
soon.
subjective.
Small Talk every Tuesday, 1999 Project every Friday. Scary Mania 5 is going to be starting up here very soon, so we got a lot of content coming up. There's never been a better time to subscribe, so subscribe, click the bell for notifications. Next time on the Phillips Project, it's The Hangover Part 2. For Jacob Collins, my name is Ryan Cam. We will see you all in the next one. Take care.